Welcome to today's webinar. If you are taking the general IELTS tests, then you've come to the right place. We are going to be taking a look at one of the main areas that you will need to prepare for on the writing exam. So we're going to take a look at writing task 1 and particularly this question, which will be writing an informal letter. Okay, so we have a range of different things that we're going to be looking at today. Namely, we're going to look at the different types of letters that you might need to write. We are also going to look at the structure or how the letter looks. Another thing that we will be doing is writing a greeting and a sign-off. And I'll tell you a bit more about what those things mean later on. And we will have a look at the opening and closing statement. And finally, some grammar and vocabulary for letters. So this is the question that you will come across. And you will have a topic up the top of the page. The topic is about a birthday party. So what you need to do is answer the question. You would like to invite a friend from another country to visit you for your birthday. And the task that you have to do is to write a letter about that. In your letter, there are 3 things that you need to do. The first one being that you need to tell the person that is reading the letter that it's your birthday, explain why you want them to visit you, and offer your friend your spare room to stay. This one last point is a little bit unique, a little bit different, and it's kind of interesting. So yeah, you will be telling them that they're going to stay with you. You have a free room, so they don't basically need to worry about accommodation. And it says here, write at least 150 words. You do not need to write any address. Begin your letter as follows. All of these 3 points in the middle, that we call them bullet points in your letter, you must do all these 3 things. So you need to write to your letter including these key points. In the speaking test on the IELTS, you maybe guys remember on part 2, you also have some bullet points. Describe a beautiful place that you have been to. Tell the listener who you went to this place with, when you went there, why you would like to go back there in the future. Those bullet points you do not need to actually include in your answer. They are just for your help. But these ones on the writing, you must write about them. If you don't write about these bullet points, you will not achieve all of the points that you can achieve on this exam. So remember to do that. There are 2 other types of letter that you could be asked to write about. Those are the formal and the semi-formal. But for today's lesson, we're just going to look at the personal ones. Okay, and yeah, as I said, this is going to be an informal letter because the main reason you know that is you know this person, you know who they are, you've met them before. So in that case, it is informal. If you don't know the person, or if you rarely talk to them, then this would be a formal or a semi-formal letter. And we have a couple of purposes that we might write a letter for. And the first one is starting a new job. So in this case, the type of letter might be an informal letter, but it might also be to inform somebody that you're starting a new job. Another one could be that you are apologizing for something, perhaps a mistake that you made or an accident that you caused. Do you guys think this is an informal letter or a formal letter? And I would encourage you guys to write down small answers in the chat box for today's webinar. Yes, I can see you guys responding there. So that second letter would typically be formal. How about the next one? It has some kind of invitation. Let's call it a birthday invitation. Or also it could be a wedding invitation. Usually for a birthday invitation, you guys are right, that one would be pretty informal. For a wedding, it depends, but mostly it would be a little bit more formal, I would say. Okay, and the last one here is a picture of a question mark, and I think that's supposed to be an exclamation mark or an answer. So what do you guys think this letter is supposed to be? What's the topic? Asking for information. Asking for information or advice. I'm very sorry. Let me just get up for 1 second. I need to answer the door. And I'm back. So this one, as some of you pointed out, is about asking for information, and it could be related to asking for advice. So if you need some help on something. Probably in most cases, this would be informal. However, if you're asking for some advice from a company, or for example, like an authority on something, then it might be that you write a formal letter as well. Could be the case. Okay, let's just see here. And we've gone through some of the reasons that you might that you might write an informal letter. Here are some more. So we have complaint, invitation, application, probably related to a job, request, we have an apology, explanation, we also have making arrangements and giving information. So yeah, these are all the types of different reasons that we may be asked to talk about on this task, and we can also go through and decide which style should we write this letter in. As you can see, complaints would be formal, invitation would be informal, perhaps semi-formal. Application would be formal. And guys, I would probably say that you do not need to worry too much about what does semi-formal mean. Most letters, you will just usually write them formal and informal. And we will go over some additional points later on. And what do you guys think for request? Yeah, I would agree there. So that one could be formal. How about apologies? Okay, same. Yeah, any style in this case. How about the explanation this time? Well, that one would depend on who you are talking to. Next one is making arrangements. Formal, some of you guys are saying, well, it depends again, who are you talking to? Is it a friend? Is it somebody at work? And giving information is any style as well. So, well, it really depends. And the number one thing that you should think about when you're writing this letter, who is going to be reading it? And then usually you can tell, is it somebody I know very well? Then in that case, it should be informal. So back to our question. And before you even start writing about this topic, I would suggest to you to make a plan. And by doing this, we can go through, we can highlight some keywords. As you can see, some important points like birthday, inviting, telling about your birthday, explaining the visit, and the spare room. So you may want to think about some details that you could mention related to these key points. So for example, if we take birthday, we could think about the location, about where it's going to be or where it's going to be held. We could think about the size of the birthday party. So how many people is there going to be there? Who is going to be there? What activities you might be doing there? So these are all the kind of things that I'm thinking about, and I might start writing them next to the questions there. And we have this nice table down the bottom here as well. And this person has decided that they're going to talk about Maria from Greece, who is a friend from college. Regarding the birthday, they're going to talk about the fact that it's their 30th birthday. And they will do a couple of activities, which is having dinner and then singing karaoke. What's the reason for the visit? Well, this person wants their particular friend to come so they could have a chance to reunite. It sounds like they have not seen each other for a long time. And finally, they mentioned that they have a lot of space in their apartment. So in fact, you don't need to worry about booking anything, spending money. In fact, they could pick them up from the airport as well. Very convenient. We're going to take a look at the structure now. So in terms of how do we go about putting this letter together? And you should think of about 4 or 5 key areas that you're going to address. The first one is a greeting. So whenever you write a letter, it's a bit different from an essay. You need to write an address at the top. You need to kind of say hello to the person and grab their attention. Another point is that you will write the purpose. What's the reason? Why should they read your letter? We also have some body paragraphs that we like to introduce on both IELTS tasks. We will need to include more details. They do this. This is typically how people write any piece of information. With the letter, they will also ask for you to include a closing statement to round off everything you've said, kind of it's not really a summary like you have in the essays, but it's kind of like a parting final sentence just to wrap everything up before you see them. Or if you're talking about another kind of letter, just to come to a result, hoping for a certain result next time you get a response from them. And we have the last one is sign off. So when we finish the letter, we should end it somehow. And in this case, we have some typical phrases. You probably have seen many of these before that we use. One of them is best wishes, and this is used in the sign-off. So guys, can you match which phrases we should be using, on which section they should go in? You don't need to put your real name, by the way. You need to put a name, but you can just make it up. All right, there we go. So how about the next line? So I see this one, many of you guys noting that it should come in the closing. Okay, as for the party, it's going to be great. It's going to go Actually, probably somewhere in the middle, I guess. Why have they put it there? Well, they're actually leading into what they want to talk about as the main point of this letter. So maybe before that, they were just catching up a little bit, and now they tell the main purpose. The next one, I thought I'd get in touch to ask. Yeah, this one's definitely going to come toward the beginning there. And sorry, it's been so long as well. So now we're on to the second round of phrases. So this is something that we could also include when we greet a friend. Perhaps they haven't been in touch for a while. And we have here another phrase, all the best, that usually comes at the end. How about this one? You're welcome to stay at my place. Now, remember, guys, there were 3 key bullet points. The last one mentioning that they had a free spare room. So this is definitely something you will include in the middle of your letter. And how about the next point? Okay, yeah, this will come. Oh, that's an interesting one. So number 1, huh? Yeah, so perhaps they got in touch beforehand and they actually replying to a letter. That could be the case. We also have here this one. I just wanted to let you know that. So it's another way to introduce some information that you're about to talk about. And finally, we have this one here. Let me know if I can help at all. So we can close off our letter with that as well. Okay, great. So guys, those are just some of the key phrases that you can use when putting together a letter. Now we have our sign-offs, or we can call them our signatures, our salutations. Salutations can come toward the beginning. We have here hi, hey, and dear. But actually, dear is pretty formal, so you maybe don't usually use that with a friend or someone close. So you could go just with a simple hi or hello. For the sign-off, we have these 3 common phrases very, very often that you would use. And the other ones, those would typically be used in a formal letter. When you use most of these, you should put a comma at the end, unless it includes an exclamation mark or some extra energy or emphasis. I would go with a comma. Okay, so now we're going to look a little bit more about the openings. And can you guys take a look at the 4 types of purpose on the board here? We have invite, apologize, explain, and request. So which one do you think this letter falls under the category of? Invite. Yeah, that's correct. So they're inviting a friend for a birthday party. And here's one form of the introduction that we can include. So it starts off, Dear Miss Maria, how are you? I apologize for the delay in writing to you. However, it is my birthday next week. Therefore, thought I would contact you to ask if you would like to visit me. So when going through that opening, can anybody see anything a little bit strange here? Yeah, so you should guys be starting to see that. It is too formal. And some of you have some examples in the chat box there. Miss Maria. So I don't think usually you would call your friend with Mr. or Mrs. It's too formal. Yeah, that is the main one. And can you see the linking words there? So, for example, however and therefore. So it's again far too formal. And so I'm going to show you some examples in a moment of how you could change those words. Mohammed, that's a very interesting statement. Yes, that is correct. And the accent is certainly very, very different in that part of the world, although most people say that my accent is not very strong. So it's very interesting to hear your comment. So can you see any other words or phrases that look too formal? So apologize. Apologize could be changed to sorry, definitely. All right, so let's just take a look there. Some of the examples. What we could change here? Well, yeah, I would go with instead of apologize, I apologize. Sorry, it's been so long since I last wrote. So that's how they changed that one. Another one, instead of the word contacts, it's not too formal, but there's a better way that we can say it. We can say get in touch. And it's a nice kind of phrasal verb that you can use to demonstrate your vocabulary as well. So things like, I would like to catch up with you, or I'm just getting in touch to see something. Yeah, we mentioned those linking words. So can you guys think of any better ways to say that? Yeah, exactly. Some of you guys are noticing that now. Yeah, so I would go with but and so, very simple conjunctions that you can use in place of those words. And you'll be seeing some of these turquoise words on the board here, and these are just like uh, cut down versions. So we have, whenever you want to speak informally, you will use the contraction, and instead of saying it is, to lengthen all of your speech, you will say it's, or you'd, or I'd even. Sorry, let me just take a quick sip here. Okay, and the next point that we want to get through is the body paragraphs. And recall that we said we'll need to address all three of those points. And usually it is best to separate your ideas into different paragraphs. The paragraphs don't need to be too long. 2 sentences would be enough. So usually you can go for 2 or 3 sentences. The first part we are addressing, tell your friend about your birthday. So we have some ideas here on the board, and the first one is 30. We have a dinner party and we have karaoke. So when those ideas come to our mind, how could we write them out? Well, we could say something like this. We could say, as it's my 30th birthday, I thought we could do something special. So far, the plan is to go out for a fancy meal at Ben's restaurant. Then we'll go out to a karaoke bar and see where the night takes us. How does that sound? Okay, if we can think of a couple of different activities, that will help us to fill out this information as much as possible. Some of you might be saying, well, on my birthday or my friend's birthday, we would just usually stay at home or we would just do one activity. So that could be normal, but in this case, we want to write more information because it's a language test. And don't worry if the information is not true. It doesn't need to be true, but it needs to sound sort of or partly interesting. And that's why they have gone with those two activities. You will also see some of the phrasal verbs again. This is starting to become a theme. So we've got go out. And another point here is see where the night takes us. So that is an idiom. And usually you might use idioms when talking in informal situations. Okay, and the next point is to explain why you would like them in particular to visit you. We have some pictures of a photo book, graduation party, and a wedding. So the writer says, it would be great if you could make it over. I was looking at the photos from our course graduation party the other day. So many amazing memories. Do you remember Rosie and Paul from the course? Well, they're getting married. They'll be at the dinner so you can catch up with them too. So a little background of trying to persuade them to come to the birthday party, and some more information about who might be there when they join. Again, notice some of the typical language that we would use. Make it over. Also, we have catch up with. So those could be some important ones to learn. And then, as you can see, some of the other typical phrasing that you might use with your friends, such as amazing memories. And so far, we can see that the paragraphs are quite short. In this case, we have 4 sentences. However, this is probably the main part of the letter. The main bullet point is that you're going to be explaining, right? Maybe the next one might be a bit shorter. Okay, and here we have information about the trip. So the writer says, you're welcome to stay over at mine while you're here. There's plenty of room. We have a spare bedroom, and I'd be happy to meet you, pick you up at the airport. Just let me know what time you're arriving. And as mentioned here, we can maybe cut this one down a bit and just include a couple of sentences. Here we are talking about offering them our place to stay. So in that case, it would be useful to include some information related to that. So they said spare bedroom, plenty of room, and stay over at mine. So those would be the kind of key phrases being used. And altogether, that's kind of how it comes, how it looks like. And remember that with task 1, we're only going to need to write 150 words. So it will look a lot shorter than the essay. And I forgot to mention, before you finish writing about all those 3 bullet points and then finish your letter, we should use the closing statement and the sign off. So the closing statement here is, I look forward to hearing from you. And possibly this is too formal. So can you guys think of an alternative of what you could write at the end? Okay, hope to hear from you soon. I can't wait to delight. Maybe you want to say, I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to hear you. Hugs and kisses. Now, that is probably what I would say to a friend or someone close. However, remember that this is a test and you are trying to prove your language ability. And this is not the best way to prove that. So you still, obviously you want to be less formal, but you still want to include language that can be graded by the examiner. So it will be great to see you again, or I am eager to meet you soon again will be good examples as well. In this case, the writer says, looking forward to hearing from you. This answer comes in at a band 9, and it is a total of 185 words. If you are aiming to get band 7 and above, you should write somewhere about this amount of words. So you should write 170 or 180 words if you can. Most of the time you should be able to do that with the question that is given to you. If you are aiming for band 6 or lower, or even band 6.5, you don't need to write so much. So just make sure that you write 150 words and you should be okay for hitting those band scores. When you get the question, first of all, decide what type of letter it should be. Should it be formal or informal? Make sure to plan the main points, the main bullet points, and give as many details as you can that are relevant to the question. Choose the greeting that you're going to use at the start of your lesson. So you will need to practice using that kind of greeting when you're writing letters. Also writing the opening. So what's the statement that you're going to do or use to attract the attention of the reader? Obviously, again, we have the main points that we're going to include, but now we're going to explain them in more detail by writing them out in full. And then, as we've just spoken about, we're going to write the closing and the sign off. So if you guys can tick off all of those boxes, that is what the examiner is going to be looking at when they look at task response or task achievement, actually. With task achievement, they will see, is the student writing about the question that I gave to them? Did they answer directly? Are they including all of these typical things that you need to do in a letter? If you do both of those things, then you should be in a good position. Yeah, and obviously at the end of the exam, make sure you leave a couple of minutes of which you can read through your letter and just check it for spelling. I will share you guys one of the tips that I have that I share with students when we're practicing proofreading and checking our writing, is that we always want to go from the bottom to the top. And that is not a reference to any hip hop song. I'm serious when I say that when you go from the bottom and work your way from right to left, you should actually see spelling errors much more easily if I just scan like this. And the reason is because when I'm going this way, I'm not listening to my voice in my head. However, when I'm going this way, I'm listening to all the ideas that I have written about, and this can be a way to distract myself and stop looking for spelling mistakes. So it is best to go backwards when you want to check your writing. You will be much quicker that way, and you will also spot more errors for sure.